And now, On The Go Media proudly presents Between the Ropes.
Welcome back to Between the Ropes. I'm Hunter Dietz. This is Colt Powers. Before we kick things off, it's pretty prominent on camera. Would you like to explain to people why your beard is not normal color?
So I coach girls wrestling.
Yeah.
And this last weekend we had a state, and I made a bet with my girls. If they make it to state, then I would color my beard. I'd allow them to color my beard. So Elsie Cooper is who I made the bet with, and I had to own up to my bet. And so this last week at state, she spent one evening coloring my beard. The color of her shoes is what she wanted. So as you can see, there is some pink, supposed to be blue, and there is some purple here. So we had 3 of our girls make it to state, and yeah, so that is why this is going to be prominent on camera today.
Well, let's just hope that your gambling days are behind you, because you came out on the lower end of that one for sure.
I'm not sure. I mean, it looks like cotton candy. I think,
yeah,
you know. So it's
sure.
I mean, I was all right with it. It was a great weekend. You know, our girls did a fantastic job, and I'm more than happy to make that bet. If it's incentive for them to work a little bit harder and make it to state, I will take that bet all day long.
Sure.
I didn't realize how colorful it would turn out, but
and boy, did it.
Here we are.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So let's get into it. We do have a lot to go over today. Today we are going over Bound for Glory 2005. This is the first Bound for Glory show that TNA put on. And you were watching TNA at this time. I've never really been big into TNA, so this is kind of interesting for me to go back and watch this. And some prominent names of the future and of the past on this show.
Absolutely.
Because I did not get a chance to see it, I just want to talk a little bit about the pre-show match. Sanjay Dutt defeating Alex Shelley, Austin Aries, and Roderick Strong in a 4-way X Division match.
Yep.
All of those guys, maybe minus Sanjay Dutt, go on to WWE and to bigger things later on in their career. So that pre-show match, that's kind of a nice little preview of the future.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think TNA did do a very good job of building young stars, especially in those early days. They're doing a really good job of it now again as well. I mean, and I think we've talked on here before that, you know, TNA did a really nice job bringing up young guys like, you know, the AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, those guys. And then there was I'll say a turbulent time in there for TNA where they, it's okay to bring in legends. I have no problem doing that. But when you start bringing in too many and they end up more or less taking over the brand and product, it's too much. So,
and there is some to talk about with legends here. The first match on the actual card involves Jushin Thunder Liger, but actually before we get to that, I do kind of want to run down the events stats. October 23rd, 2005 at the Impact Zone, attendance of 900. So they're not doing these pay-per-views outside of the Impact Zone. Everything is being done in the Impact Zone, I imagine, as a way to keep costs down.
And that, you know, honestly, it was a smart idea for them. And, you know, you can keep your costs down because they kept their set up all the time, 24/7.
Yeah.
The set was always there. You didn't have to tear down and put it back up. And Universal Studios. So I was never able to go to a show down there.
Yeah.
But you would think that it'd be fairly reasonably priced if you're already in there. I don't know if the ticket prices, I don't know how they made money per se, because I'm sure you have to have a ticket to get into this event.
Yeah.
But I would think that ticket prices would be pretty low. And since this was supposed to be the equivalent of WrestleMania, obviously it's not going to be WrestleMania.
But it's TNA's WrestleMania.
It's TNA's version
Sure.
of WrestleMania. It's their big culmination show.
Well, and because it was similar to WrestleMania, I do want to talk a little bit too about, and they showed this throughout the event, TNA holds their first Fan Fest this week in the lead up to Bound for Glory. Several TNA wrestlers appearing at the event, including Raven, AJ Styles, Jushin Liger, Christopher Daniels, Jeff Hardy, Jeff Jarrett, many others, Jimmy Hart, a lot of people, Rhyno, who would go on to be a bigger part of this event than was originally planned.
Yeah.
And so this portion of the history of TNA is looked back at very fondly because a lot because of the X Division. But what I noticed in looking at this show is that while the X Division is good, I think their main event scene was really well fleshed out too. And it's a shame that there were some issues, which we'll get into a little bit more later with this main event, because this was all kind of thrown together that weekend.
Yes.
Due to Kevin Nash's medical injury.
Yes. And Nash was not in. He was supposed to be in the main event against Jeff Jarrett. And there was, we're talking a long time ago. And again, because I had state wrestling, I didn't get to go back and review the pay-per-view like I was planning. So I'm going off a lot of stuff with memory, which is not great as I get older. But I don't remember why Kevin
Nash had a minor heart attack.
That's right.
That week, either week before or weekend before. And so kind of scrambling, they announced earlier in the show that now, okay, Kevin Nash is in the hospital. Who's going to face Jeff Jarrett? Well, Tito Ortiz, already scheduled to be the special guest referee for the main event.
Yep.
A lot of matches had to have time cut because they did a gauntlet for the gold match to replace Kevin Nash in the main event. That's the semi-main of this match. And who's going to face Jeff Jarrett? Taking a look at the show, though, I do want to get into it because there are 10 matches on the card. Jushin Thunder Liger makes his debut against the undefeated Samoa Joe.
Yes.
Now, when I've heard about the undefeated Samoa Joe, I've pictured this ruthless killer that couldn't be beaten. That was not his presentation at this event. He comes out with the Samoan dancers, and it's this happy, thing. Jushin Liger comes out. But when he's in the ring, it's all business.
Yes.
And in just 7 minutes, 27 seconds, we see Samoa Joe dominate the legend Jushin Thunder Liger. And they make some references to Jushin Liger being only the second WCW Cruiserweight champion of all time. And really interesting stuff in that match. I liked a lot of that. What do you remember about both Samoa Joe at this time being undefeated and Jushin Thunder Liger as a legend in the business in 2005?
I'll be honest, I don't remember a lot off the top of my head. I do remember just Samoa Joe being a very dominant. When he came in, like you said, his entrance and stuff was like, I know you don't like Goldberg. But
I do not.
when you hear undefeated and you hear some of that, you think, like you said, this monster is coming down. Sure. And he didn't have that presentation initially, especially in like the entrance. So for him, to obviously once the bell rang, yes, but
oh yeah, absolutely. And Samoa Joe would remain undefeated, obviously, through that match, basically squashing Jushin Thunder Liger, who's made his debut here. But the fans seem very excited about it. That's another thing. 900 people in the Impact Zone, but they are all fans. There's no casual walking into this. You can tell everybody in the Impact Zone is excited and ready for this card. And I think that's exactly what some of the matches on this card needed, because it's not terribly strong all the way throughout, as we'll see in the match that followed.
No. Because the match that followed, that was the tag team match, right?
That's the 6-man. The Diamonds in the Rough, David Young, Elix Skipper, and Simon Diamond defeating Apollo, your favorite, Shark Boy, and Sonny Siaki. Man, this match was not good. I did not enjoy this at all. But sure enough, like I said, the fans were there for it. Shark Boy comes out, he does the thing,
He's got his.
and all the fans are doing it back at him. The Diamonds in the Rough do win over Apollo, Shark Boy, and Sonny Siaki. But at this time, Simon Diamond, we know, would go on to become a bigger part of TNA and later other promotions. What do you think of Simon Diamond? And Elix Skipper has just had, I think the month before, the moment where he does the Hurricane Rana off the top of the cage.
Yeah, that
spot?
was wild,
Yeah.
being able to witness. I mean, the things that some of these guys, and when you're young, I know a lot of people think they're invincible, but you can bounce back a little bit better when you're young. As we get older, we don't bounce back from that stuff.
You wouldn't take that bump today?
No, I don't think I would even consider doing a Hurricane Rana today at all.
I feel like if the right position, if you're at WrestleMania and they say, we want you to do a Hurricane Rana, you'll die in the ring.
I would definitely die doing it. I would die doing it. So,
but yes, David Young pinning Sonny Siaki to win for his team after forcing Siaki to the mat with a spine buster. After that, Monty Brown defeats Lance Hoyt. Singles match. Not a ton of story coming into this match. What do you think about Monty Brown in 2005?
I do enjoy Monty Brown. I thought he was a great wrestler, a great character. For TNA, he's one that sticks out, especially in the early years for me. I remember him being in a lot of the matches and early matches and being a big part of that, sure, building that younger crowd, I guess. And he was always one, and he had a very distinct walk and look to him. I mean, he his actions and stuff made you remember him because he would overplay, overact.
I would agree with that. Yeah, he had a very energetic and kind of like his moniker. He had an alpha sense about him.
Yeah.
That you look at him and you say, I don't want to mess with that guy.
Yeah.
But he wins 6 minutes 29 seconds after hitting Lance Hoyt with the pounce. And that's a devastating maneuver.
Absolutely.
Right there. I would not want to be caught on the wrong side of the pounce. The fourth match was yet another 6-man tag match.
Yep.
This time between Team Canada, Bobby Roode, Eric Young, and A1, and the 3 Live crew, Conan, Ron Killings, and BG James, better known as Road Dogg. Team Canada accompanied to the ring by Scott D'Amore. Just 6 minutes and 8 seconds for this. What can you tell us about the 3 Live crew?
Well, 3 Live crew, for me, even at that era, they're a little more legend-esque just because, I mean, you got Road Dogg, which I know at that time they weren't necessarily legends,
sure, but
they were bigger names.
Yeah.
And so having Road Dogg or BG James, Conan coming from, I know he was he LWO for a while?
Conan?
Too? Yeah.
Yes.
He was in LWO, but he was NWO Wolfpack.
Yes.
And because that was a smaller faction. That's what I remember him from more than the LWO.
Yeah.
And then Ron Killings being R-Truth, he's always been entertaining. I swear that man doesn't age at all either. But having that legend-esque crew or the more well-known, and then Eric Young, out of the 3, A1, Bobby Roode, and Eric Young, I much more prefer Bobby Roode. I loved his character in TNA. He had, I felt like he was a mix of Triple H and Ric Flair almost.
Sure.
in TNA when he got his first start. And he was one, actually, I went to a TNA event in Spencer, Iowa. It was at the Clay County Fairgrounds. Kurt Angle was there.
Oh, wow.
I did get a picture with Kurt at that event. But that was a fun event. I was hoping for Sting, but it was a house show.
Sure.
But Bobby Roode was there, and I got to shake his hand as he went around the ring. These guys, this was a smaller promotion, and it being a house show, they were more interactive with fans and whatnot. But we left the event after meeting Kurt and getting a picture and stuff with him. We left the event, and the buddy I had with me, he's like, hey, I'm really hungry. Can we stop somewhere? I said, yeah, sure. I think we stopped at Burger King and just going to grab something. And in walks Bobby Roode. Nobody else in the restaurant in Burger King recognized him. He's standing there waiting for his food. And I look over and if you say something, you're going to make a scene. So you don't try to make a scene to him. And I walked over to him and I said, hey, I am a huge fan. And he said, please don't make a big deal, because he's just trying to get his food and get out. And I said, I won't make a big deal, but I said, I just want to tell you how much I'm a fan of yours, and I love the show tonight. And he was pretty appreciative that I didn't make a big deal. He was able to get his food and get out. I didn't ask for an autograph or a photo or anything, but he was really cool talking for a second there.
Good.
In Burger King. And I always remember that. And I thought, they always say, don't meet your heroes. Not that he's not Triple H to me. Like sure. If it was Triple H, I would have,
you would have geeked out.
I would have been fangirl all over that. Yeah. But, for him to be cool and not, get ticky that I was talking to him, that was pretty
Marking
cool.
Out just a little bit.
Yeah. It's like, holy shit, you're Bobby Roode.
Yeah. Well, and so, yes, the young Bobby, or Eric Young. I'm looking at all the wrong names here. Eric Young gained the pinfall for his team on James after Roode hit James with a hockey stick while the referee was preoccupied. Classic shenanigans in that 6-man tag match. But after that, we get into something very interesting and very new to not only TNA, but to the wrestling industry. The 3-way Ultimate X match to determine the number 1 contender to the X Division Championship at Genesis. Petey Williams, Chris Sabin, and Matt Bentley. 13 minutes, 13 seconds. What can you tell us about the Ultimate X match? How different is this compared to what we had seen in wrestling before it?
Well, as we said, TNA was really good at bringing up young talent, and their Ultimate X Division was that young, fun, and exciting. They're a little bit smaller. They're not. They're more of like the cruiserweight division that WCW and I think WWE had, and high flying, able to do that type of stuff. X Division was just a whole nother level, and we've seen some of the X Division, the Ultimate X matches throughout the years, and it gives people a little bit of a heart attack sometimes, especially when you land
reasonably
being that high up in the air. And but it's another one of those that TNA was very innovative. I know a lot of people didn't like the 6-sided ring, but I felt like that gave them such an identity.
Yeah.
And then, adding in their own stuff. They weren't trying to necessarily, they weren't trying to copy anything. They were able to, hey, let's bring in something different, something new. And so you get your Ultimate X.
Well, and for those who don't know, the Ultimate X match, above the ring, there are ropes tied across each other in an X. And unlike a ladder match, you don't climb a ladder to grab what's hanging in the air. You have to climb the ropes and basically hang in the air to try to get what in this case was a big red X for the number 1 contendership. So this Ultimate X match is very interesting. It's won by Petey Williams, who will go on at Genesis to challenge for the X Division Championship. And yeah, very, very interesting time with the Ultimate X match. I will be curious to see in this continued partnership with TNA if WWE will ever host an Ultimate X match, and because it's such a fun concept, it's such a cool visual.
Absolutely.
I think safety is probably their top concern. But imagine seeing the Ultimate X at WrestleMania.
I think that would be phenomenal, and I find it funny that you say safety. I mean, of course it is, but the things that we've done in WWE.
Oh, no.
I find it hard to believe that safety is the issue in that one.
I can agree with you on that.
It's nice that they have a good relationship with TNA, and yes, to be able to bring in a match like that and host it at like a WrestleMania or something, I think would be really, and have your WWE versus TNA.
Sure.
And I think that would
similar
be
to how they like the Money in the Bank match was an inter-promotional ladder match. Raw and SmackDown Superstar. You could do NXT and TNA. And so maybe it's not WrestleMania, maybe it's Stand and Deliver or something like that, a big NXT event. But
I think they need to have a TNA versus WWE event in itself. And
they tried doing that a few months ago on television, but it was basically just an episode of NXT.
But that's, and I want a full
pay-per-view event.
Yes. What the WWE, when WCW came in, the invasion, it's what that should have been. I think they could do it right now.
Yep, I agree. I also want to mention just a couple of things as we're about halfway through the card here. This event was dedicated to Reggie Lasowski, who'd passed away the night prior, better known to wrestling fans as the Crusher. Yep. I believe, I didn't fact check this, so I could be wrong, but I believe we talked about him a few weeks ago when we discussed the WCW Hall of Fame, the Crusher being a member of the WCW Hall of Fame as this old-time wrestler.
Yep.
And I also want to point out that across the board from wrestling critics online and in the magazines, Bound for Glory got a higher rating than WrestleMania 21, receiving a 9 out of 10 from Bob Kapoor, one of the top Canadian wrestling critics, whereas WrestleMania 21 only got a 5 out of 10, which I think is unfair. But this is a good show.
It's a lot like what some of these guys do now, and they say that AEW is so much better than which let's keep everybody divided, for God's sakes. Let's just keep it all. I mean, don't get me started on this, Ray. I'm not going to go off on it now. I'll wait.
Okay. Well, we'll have an episode where we talk about how much we hate the IWC. The next match after the Ultimate X match, you'd think after something like that you have a breather. This is certainly not a breather, though. America's Most Wanted, James Storm and Chris Harris with Gail Kim, defeating the Naturals, Andy Douglas and Chase Stevens, for the NWA World Tag Team Championships, 10 minutes, 37 seconds. America's Most Wanted is a really fun tag team.
Absolutely.
And James Storm, underappreciated talent, I think.
Very underappreciated, and I really enjoyed when he was paired with Bobby Roode.
Yeah, Beer Money.
Beer Money Inc. was awesome. Yeah. I love that team. But James Storm, I do feel like he is underappreciated, and I just don't feel like he gets the recognition that he should have. And I do, if I'm not mistaken, I think WWE tried to bring him in
for a very short time. Yeah, they brought him into NXT.
Yeah, and I don't know if it just didn't work out, didn't feel right for him, or it wasn't a good fit. But yeah, he definitely deserves to be somewhere and be appreciated.
Well, during the match, Andy Douglas gets busted open, causing him to bleed from the forehead throughout. The Naturals get a 2 count on Harris after they performed America's Most Wanted signature, the death sentence, slamming him back first into the mat while jumping on his throat. But Gail Kim interferes, distracting the Naturals, allowing James Storm to bash Douglas over the head and handcuff him to the ring barrier. America's Most Wanted followed that up by performing the death sentence on Stevens and pinning him to remain the champions. So America's Most Wanted retains the NWA World Tag Team Championships, but a very unique and interesting tag match there. Again, back-to-back intensity and energy. You'd think our next match is going to be the breather, right?
You would think.
Wrong. The second ever Monsters Ball match is held. Now, I didn't know I've heard about the Monsters Ball, but I didn't know anything about it. It's called the Monsters Ball because each wrestler has supposedly been locked in a dark room for the preceding 24 hours without food or water.
It's a gimmick. I mean, it's a gimmick.
While that is a strange thing, Rhino defeats Abyss, who has James Mitchell with him, Jeff Hardy, and Sabu. This match is insane.
Yes.
Jeff Hardy, who I believe is pretty new to TNA at this point.
If I'm not, I'm pretty sure, because I think Jeff was the first one to leave WWE,
over Matt. Yeah.
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 And so I think he jumped right into TNA, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I believe you're right. And so during this match, there is some crazy spots that happen. Sabu begins bleeding from his right eye, while Hardy had blood coming out of a cut on his arm. Rhyno also started to bleed. Hardy laid Abyss on a table and then ascended to the top of the Bound for Glory set, jumped off, somersaulted, and landed on Abyss. I think he was attempting a swanton, but it didn't really look that way.
Didn't pan out for him.
He lands on Abyss. Eventually, they both recover, leading to Rhyno tackling Abyss through a table with a gore. And Rhyno drives Hardy's head into the mat with a Rhyno driver from the second ring rope. This match is intense and violent and bloody and all sorts of things.
So you got Rhyno, which was ECW.
Yep.
You've got Jeff Hardy, who's known for doing high flying, jump off the highest thing you absolutely can. You've got Sabu, which again ECW and mentally unstable. Is that the best way to put Sabu?
Suicidal, genocidal, homicidal, I think. Yeah.
So, and then Abyss being, I do love Abyss. I can't think of his real name off the top of my head.
Chris Park.
Yes. And so, he has a great mind for wrestling. He was a cross between Mankind and Kane, I feel like.
Yep.
And so getting all of these guys together in a match, you have to figure shit's gonna happen. Sure.
And so again, you would think in a normal course of events, these guys have performed, they're done for the night now. But after the Monsters Ball, Larry Zbyszko announces a 10-man gauntlet match will be held later in the show to determine who will face Jarrett in Kevin Nash's place for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship.
Yep.
And spoiler alert, these guys are not done wrestling for the night. But be that as it may, we move into the next match, a 30-minute Iron Man match for the X Division title between AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels. Please tell us a little bit about these guys.
Well, you think of when you first think Iron Man match, my mind immediately goes to an hour long. And so 30 minutes, you would think that 30 minutes is not long enough, but you have AJ Styles and Chris Daniels, and this is another one of those matches. I know it rates really high on TNA's best of list.
Yes, it does.
AJ and Chris Daniels, the chemistry that they have together, and we all know AJ ended up, for the most part, he is retired.
Yes.
But he side note, he picked up his gloves, and I guess he said he didn't want to leave them in the ring and be that guy. But anyway, so AJ Styles and Chris Daniels having the chemistry that they have, able to put on even though I do have to wonder, and I don't know if you have it in any of your notes, because they had to switch gears with this. Was the Iron Man match supposed to go 60?
So the Iron Man match, I believe, was always supposed to go 30. However, several matches on this card were cut, including the world title main event. I think the world title main event was supposed to go a half hour. It only went 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was a hang of a difference there.
Yes.
But getting back to AJ and Daniels, no, the chemistry that they have and being able to perform a 30-minute Iron Man match, which I suppose during that era, 30 minutes is a long time to keep the crowd captivated.
It is.
And so, because very few guys, even WWE, how long or how many Iron Man matches have we had? We had Shawn and Brett.
Yeah.
We've had Benoit and Triple H.
Yeah, maybe. Angle and Brock.
Angle and Brock. Did they do an Iron Man?
They did on SmackDown. Angle and Shawn on Raw Homecoming.
Yep.
Cena and Orton.
We're talking a handful.
Yeah.
This used
less
to be
than 10.
This, I'd say 70s and 80s. It was pretty mainstay to have hour-long matches.
Sure.
But in that era, you didn't have to have the high flying moves, and you didn't have the short attention spans that kids have nowadays.
Yeah.
You have to. So for these guys to go 30 minutes and captivate the crowd, I'd say was a phenomenal.
Absolutely. And so some interesting things happening in this match. Christopher Daniels attempting to get Styles to submit early to gain a point by using the Koji clutch, which I believe he used several times. Unable to do so, Daniels earned a 2 count after landing on Styles with his BME aerial maneuver. I just want to pause from the recap a little bit to ask you, Christopher Daniels or AJ Styles, who's the better high flyer? You could say that AJ's the more successful wrestler.
I was going to say, I'm trying to take emotion out of it.
Sure.
And because I immediately, when you ask, I immediately want to say AJ, but I feel like that's an emotional response.
Yeah.
That because I enjoy AJ more, I'm a bigger fan of AJ, but Christopher Daniels might actually be the better high flyer.
Yeah. Well, and a little fun fact about him, I'm sure you know this, but maybe our audience doesn't. Originally in, I think it was 1999, the higher power Vince in the hood was supposed to be Christopher Daniels.
Was it really?
It was, because he was doing the Fallen Angel gimmick on the
that's
Indies.
right.
And so they wanted to bring him in. They'd had him do a dark match. They liked it. And day of, they decided to go with Vince instead of Christopher Daniels, which just shows you how unprepared they were with that story.
Oh.
And but imagine if Christopher Daniels had been revealed as the higher power and goes on in that ministry role and all that sort of stuff, his career could have been much different. But in this Iron Man match, with only 13 seconds remaining on the clock, score is still tied 0-0. Styles performs a Styles Clash and follows up with the pin. As time ran out, obviously 1-0. He had the most falls and therefore retained the TNA X Division Championship.
Yep.
A great match by these guys, but shockingly, a match so good, it doesn't even get ranked in his best matches of 2005, which just goes to show you that AJ Styles was on a different level at that time.
Always absolutely on another level. And the chemistry that he has with certain people too. I mean,
especially Christopher Daniels. I mean, those two have had a lot of chemistry and a lot of history together.
Yep.
Following this, we get the 10-man gauntlet for the gold to determine Kevin Nash's replacement in the main event. 14 minutes and 12 seconds. The participants were Abyss, AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Kip James, who's Billy Gunn, Lance Hoyt, Monty Brown, Rhino, Ron Killings, Sabu, and Samoa Joe. This feels like we were just, who's here? Who can we send out?
And so TNA being a smaller promotion, I feel like they had to utilize who they could.
Yeah.
And, who can we get in here and throw it together? And on short notice, who can work well together? So I think this crew, they all, I feel like, have some experience either with each other or enough experience that they can pull this off.
Sure.
Especially in short order, because, we just come off of an Iron Man match and now we're going to go 14 minutes and try and determine a winner to move on.
Yeah.
And so I think it feels like they, threw together the best crew that they could.
Well, and this is not a traditional gauntlet match either, because they're trying to speed things up. This is basically Royal Rumble rules.
Yep.
Every 2 minutes, a new individual enters. The objective is to throw your opponent over the top rope, and both feet have to hit the floor. The last two wrestlers were Abyss and Rhino, and Rhino throws Abyss over the top. After the Monsters Ball match, Rhino wins the gauntlet battle royal type thing, and now the main event is set for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. Jeff Jarrett, the NWA Heavyweight Champion, alongside Gail Kim, will face Rhino with Tito Ortiz as the special guest referee. A casket was positioned by the ring, as in storyline, Jarrett planned to bury his opponent after defeating them. Jeff Jarrett doesn't really have like a supernatural gimmick or anything.
No, and
this is weird.
Watching his podcast with, I think, is he with Conrad right now?
I think so.
Watching, I get to watch highlights and stuff, where I seek out the highlights and stuff of his, and his wrestling psychology and him being critical of certain things that are going on today, and then looking back to throwing a casket in there back, it's like, don't get me wrong, I love Jeff Jarrett. I do. I think he's a great talent. I think he's a great person. I do like Jeff Jarrett, but I think he's awful critical of stuff when you look back and go, what was the point of this? And
Jeff was maybe not the greatest creative mind this business has seen when it comes to some of those sorts of things. But this match is full of goofy garbage, frankly. It only goes 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Gail Kim distracts Tito Ortiz. Jarrett bashes Rhyno over the head with a guitar, only gets a 2 count. Then America's Most Wanted comes to ringside to distract Ortiz. They slide Jarrett another guitar. Jarrett attempts to hit Rhyno with the guitar, but Rhyno counters and hits Jarrett with the gore. Then the pinfall. After the match, now Rhyno is the new NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He wasn't even supposed to be there.
Yep.
Team 3D comes to his defense after Team Canada attacks Rhyno and places him in the casket after winning the belt, winning the gauntlet, and winning the Monsters Ball. Team Canada puts him in a casket. The Dudleys come out to his defense, as well as the 3 Live crew. A brawl takes place with all the wrestlers, and Eric Young of Team Canada ends up in the casket with Rhyno standing on top of it, holding the NWA World Heavyweight Championship as the event came to a close. I felt like this was a well-paced, interesting show most of the way through, and this main event is wacky as all get out.
Yeah. The rest of the card, I mean, on paper, Jeff Jarrett and Rhyno, kind of a weird combination.
Yeah.
But Jeff Jarrett being who he is and Rhyno being who he is, it's kind of like Undertaker said of the tag team match that they had with DX. They're coming out of retirement match, and they thought, well, on paper this should be easy. We should be able to do this in our sleep. And then when you get to it, it's like, what was that?
Yeah.
So it's another one of those matches where unfortunate things happen with Kevin Nash. You had plans where you're going to call an audible, and you make the best of it. You try and make chicken salad out of chicken poo, and with an unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
And but I mean, you have great things in the card. Like I said, you got Monty Brown, you've got AJ Styles, you've got Bobby Roode. You got some great guys in this card. You got some good matches, and again, you do the best that you can, and you get what you kind of get what you get with that one. And it's an inaugural. I mean, WrestleMania wasn't perfect in its first one either.
It was not, no. But I do have this to say. TNA, on paper, you would think that TNA would not do as well as someone like the WWE. However, No Mercy and Taboo Tuesday, both WWE pay-per-views, happen around this time, September, October, and Bound for Glory 05 outsells both of them. Mm-hmm. So this starts to show maybe we're out of this early NWA TNA thing. We're out of this, like, they're solidifying themselves as an alternative brand. Yep. And that there is a fan base there for them. So all in all, Bound for Glory, pretty good show. Interesting to see some of the stars of tomorrow in their younger years. Overall, what are your thoughts on Bound for Glory and TNA in this era?
TNA in this era, like I said, coming up shortly, I do believe, is when Sting joined.
Yep.
And that is where I really, really dove into TNA. So this earlier era, before the Hogan, before the Bischoffs, before that stuff, I thought TNA was just about as perfect as you could be. You had a lot of great young talent that you're trying to build. You got a few legends there that are trying to give them the rub. And it was, like you said, it was about as perfect as you could get as far as talent. Storylines and stuff are subjective. And so, some of them were really good. Some of them were, you take or leave. Yeah. But the action because it's total nonstop action.
It is.
The action was always good. I felt like, I mean,
Sure.
it was some of the best of TNA during that era. Now, obviously, today we have, Nick Namath and Joe Hendry now has moved to WWE, but you had some, doing the same type of stuff. They were taking, well-known names like Nick Namath, and you have young guys like Joe Hendry, who they're back to trying to build and bring up those young stars. Jordan Grace is another one.
Sure.
And, not that they're not trying to overdo it with their legend / more well-known guys. So I think they're keeping it on a nice par of where TNA's early days were. Bound for Glory, I enjoyed it, especially once he joined, him having that top spot for a couple of years with Bound for Glory, Kurt Angle having that top spot, I just thought that was a really good era for TNA, and Bound for Glory being those earlier years for their WrestleMania-esque pay-per-view.
Certainly. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think that this is a great era, and there's a lot going for TNA at this time, which obviously panned out well for them. So that'll do it for us this week on Between the Ropes, talking about TNA and Bound for Glory. Next week, I'm kind of thinking I want to do something on ECW.
I like that.
We haven't done anything on ECW, and I think that gives us time to give a warning to the listeners that if we're talking about ECW, maybe things go a different direction. But yes, so look forward to that. For Colt Powers, I've been Hunter Dietz, a Between the Ropes and On the Go Media podcast production.